Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to the Nuclear Dad Blogcast. I am your host, E.C. McKeever, aka the Nuclear Dad. This is season 3, and if you've been following along so far, we've had some great episodes. We've tackled some monumental subject matters, and we like to continue on. Now, this episode is going to be titled Stop Overthinking. And in this episode, we are going to help you to unlock the chains of your mind with this latest installment. Overthinking can be a tough battle to fight, but it's not one you need to face alone. In this episode, we'll guide you through the practical steps and effective strategies to break the cycle of excessive thinking and create a healthier, happier mind space. From scientifically backed techniques, real life experiences, expert opinions, mine, to in-depth discussions about mindfulness and mental health. In this video, it is filled with individual and invaluable insights you won't want to miss. Now we're going to cover understanding the roots of overthinking, cognitive tools to reframe your thought processes, techniques to master mindfulness and stay in the present, incorporating stress-reducing habits into your daily routine, and a few stories of how I successfully battled overthinking. And now I want you to sit back, relax, nuclear dad fashion, put your feet up, go somewhere quiet. If you're driving, maybe roll a window down, or no, don't drive while you listen to this. I want you fully engaged. So yes, sit somewhere quiet, get something cold to drink, and get ready for a ride because we're about to blast off. This episode of the Nuclear Dad Blogcast is sponsored by thenucleardad.com and the Datitude Journal. The Datitude Journal is your way to create a family heirloom in real time. It is designed for you to write your thoughts and inspirations and your moral compass and your insights that you would love to pass on to your children. The idea is no one is allowed to see this before you die. Once you die, it is discovered and your kids have a piece of you that they can hold on to forever and hopefully pass on to their children and their children's children. The Datitude Journal is available on Amazon.com. Go to Amazon, type in the Datitude Journal or the Nuclear Dad, it'll pop right up. All right, now let's get into things. This was inspired by my own personal journey and a comment that I received on YouTube. While it wasn't about overthinking, it did get the wheels turning and it made me start to think and maybe overthink a little. But I've been trying to do something different. I know I haven't recorded an actual podcast episode on my podcast platform for a while. I've been trying to do the YouTube thing after a 6-month break. Long story short, had a car accident, didn't have the mental juice to be creative and create content while I was healing. While I'm not fully healed, I'm healed enough to get back in the driver's seat and continue this journey down the Nuclear Dad pathway. So I've been trying to do this YouTube thing, which I push all of my episodes to YouTube, but I was trying to do the YouTube live thing. And it worked. I was doing videos in my car and recording little shorts and uploading them and things like that. But I learned about StreamYard. And I was using StreamYard, but for some reason, every time I try to use StreamYard, there's a glitch. I did maybe 2 episodes that were okay. No glitching. But I tried to do an episode twice yesterday. And every time it was just very spotty, very choppy. And I thought about doing one just this moment. And again, it was acting spotty and it was acting choppy. And I thought maybe I could record simultaneously because I have done that before. Record a podcast with 2 different windows open on 2 different platforms at the same time to expedite productivity. StreamYard wasn't working. So I said, you know what? I'm going back to what's tried and true because I didn't want to overthink the process too much, right? It's currently midnight my time on the East Coast. I should be getting ready to go to bed right now. So we're going to keep this episode short. But getting into, and it feels good to be back. I'm sorry, I digress. So getting into the subject matter. Is overthinking a mental illness? No. Overthinking is not recognized as a mental health condition, but it can be a symptom of depression or anxiety. Overthinking is commonly associated with something called GAD, or generalized anxiety disorder. And someone can develop GAD due to their genes, or it could be personality factors like the inability to tolerate uncertainty in life. And it could be life experiences. Sometimes it's a combination, honestly. And people who experience general anxiety disorder, they could be worrying about excessive things for like the last 6 months, right? So when you have all these things piled up and it seems like a never ending stream of thoughts of maybe things you can't control or things that you're worried about, it can spiral into general anxiety disorder. And there could be difficulty controlling your anxiety, which can interfere with your ability to function, right? So you may ask, well, what does overthinking look like? I mean, we have an idea, but to quantify it into verbal terms, we would say worrying that jumps from one topic to the next, thinking of worst case scenarios often, struggling to make decisions or second guessing yourself, trouble concentrating, feeling edgy, anxious, and seeking repeated reassurance from others. And this is what you will call a chain effect. You'll start by worrying about one thing, then you'll be worried about something else that's completely different off the subject. Then you might start worrying about work, and then you start worrying about money and worrying about losing your job and then and it's a whole spiral, right? And overthinking versus problem solving. Problem solving is a great skill to have, and it can be very productive, but it's easy to believe that all of your worrying and overthinking is actually problem solving, but there is a difference. When a problem first presents itself, brainstorming possible solutions is a positive coping strategy. With overthinking, what happens is that you dwell over it and you go over the problem again and again and again with no real solution. You get caught up in the thinking loop. It's like a feedback loop, and you end up where you started. In some cases, you may even end up worse than where you started, with more worry and more anxiety. So you want to focus on problem solving that's within your control and practice letting go and not worrying about things you can't control. And whether you spend 20 minutes or 2 hours in this feedback loop, it won't provide the relief or the satisfaction that you're hoping for. So you got to do your best to recognize when you're overthinking and distract yourself until you're ready to tackle the problem in a helpful, constructive, meaningful way, right? And we'll get into that. We'll get into the ways to reframe your thought patterns. And there's like a whole scientific science behind this and big words and all of these things. But the one thing that I want you to think about, and I'm going to keep this short. This will not be a long episode. I want it to be packed full of meat and potatoes for my vegetarians, maybe mushrooms and potatoes, whatever. But I want this to be packed full of nuggets that you can ingest it in one sitting, and then maybe you can go back and listen to it again, because I am going to leave some tips and some tricks to help you get through these roadblocks. So a couple of ways to stop overthinking and be more productive, because it can slow down your productivity. Like the instance that I just gave you. I took a little bit longer than I should have trying to figure out how to make this thing work. You know, I'm unplugging routers and plugging routers back in and checking Ethernet cables, and it became a whole thing. I should not have been in the studio this long doing nothing. I did create a cool YouTube thumbnail, but you know, that's part of the game anyway. So the first thing to do is you want to take action. Sometimes doing something wrong And getting it done is better than doing nothing at all and continuing to get stuck in this feedback loop. So when you become someone who's willing to take risks, it'll be easier to face challenges. And the challenges can become harder and harder, but you'll build up that self-confidence and that sense of accomplishment that you just jump out there and get it done. And your mind won't need to overthink since your thoughts are focused on what needs to be done. You are engaged in the task instead of engaged in the thought of taking action on the task. Does that make sense? And sometimes the first step is the hardest, but it's all worth it. And remember that the beautiful destinations always commence with a single step. It's crucial because it'll determine if you're really ready to start the journey. If you start out on a path, sometimes the best way to figure out what you don't want to do is to do something you've never done. Maybe you have a new idea and you're like, you know what, I really want to try this thing. I think it's for me. And you really get going and you realize, I don't really like it. But you get that out of the way. Instead of having the woulda, coulda, shouldas a month, a year, a decade from now, hey, I really should have tried that thing. Well, if you just go out and try it, and this could be for anything, if you just go out and try it and realize, okay, it's either for me or it's not for me, then you can overthink about something else. But you get this one task out of the way and set deadlines for your decisions. If it's a big decision that you really have to mull over, you got to think it over, not overthink it over, but give it some thought and sleep on it maybe. Set a deadline, and it's going to be helpful if you assign limits to your decision. Some situations require urgent action, so don't miss those actions. Although there are some instances where you need to take some time to come up with a decision, you still need to be always on the ready. Practical and effective ways to make sure that you will not miss decisions is to set a reminder. You know what? In a week, I'm going to try this thing. I'm going to have a decision. And when the week comes and you don't know if you want to do it or not, jump into it. Now, if it's something that's going to be detrimental, like if you're thinking about skydiving, something that I will not do, but let's talk extremes here. If you're thinking about skydiving, you're like, you know what, in a week, this is the deadline to sign up for the classes, and you really don't like heights, but you want to conquer your fear, it's one or two options. You're either going to do it or you're not going to do it. Me, I'm not going to give myself the opportunity to make that decision because I know I ain't going skydiving. Personally, that's just me. But set a deadline and accept that you cannot control everything. It's just, to stop overthinking, you got to learn to let go of the various thoughts in your mind. It may be easier said than done, but we can't control everything. And what we need to learn is how to handle fears and hesitancies. And we may fail, but that's a normal part of our lives. That's a normal part of the process. Instead of thinking more negatively on your failures, learn lessons from those reasons why you failed. I mean, there's nothing wrong with failing. There's a saying that says you have to fail your way to success. And one of the things that could help with overthinking is actually being physically healthy, right? Think about if you're completely out of shape and you want to get into shape and you're watching these motivational videos of people with the gym bodies and you're like, that can never be me. And then maybe you watch a transformation video. So now they're condensing them into like a minute, right? On like a YouTube short where you see someone who's 300 pounds or, 250 pounds overweight, and they just show the consistency. And at the 10-second mark, they've dropped 2 or 3 dress sizes and so on and so forth. And at the end, it's them making a muscle or flexing in the mirror, or with the girls, they got the leggings and they're doing the angle, making the booty pop. But what you saw in a minute may have taken 2 years. But being physically healthy, and I'm sure that wasn't easy for them. Maybe they overthought the process of, I need to get in shape. I need to think about my health. I need to think about my family. I need to think about being around for a long time. And for them, the first step was getting that gym membership, or maybe even looking at themselves in the mirror with the shirt off and saying, I'm tired of living like this. I'm tired of looking like this. Maybe they were walking up the steps and they were winded and they just, they got tired. I mean, maybe there were kids making fun of them. If you got kids like my kids, they're going to point out your flaws. I had my son ask me one day, We were driving down the street, and it was a fairly unattractive young lady. I noticed her, but I kept my eyes on the road. But we stopped at the light. Lady's walking, and my son says, "Is she ugly?" I didn't even respond. No, I think I said, "That's not nice, buddy." "But she's ugly, right?" I didn't teach him that. But kids will point out your flaws. So, in the analogy of someone who was extremely overweight, that could have happened. Kid could have asked you, "Why are you fat?" Kids don't know; they're just real. Which I think more of us should be like children in that sense. Another thing you could do is read something motivating or inspiring. Again, watching these videos, looking at people who are where you want to be, can help you create the leverage in your life to want to move in that motion, move laterally to that goal, and create a to-do list to track your progress. So when you're caught up in these feedback loops of thinking and overthinking, sometimes you just gotta write down where you want to be instead of writing down what you're upset about. That's called journaling. When you're writing down what you're upset about, that's journaling. And that could actually be effective, but we'll get to that later. So, really quickly, let's go down the checklist. Make yourself a person of action. Take action. Set deadlines for your decisions. Accept that you can't control everything. Be physically healthy. Read or watch something motivating or inspiring. Create a to-do list. Practice meditation or mindfulness. If you're like me, you follow Christ. Pray. Pray on it. Try something new. Ask for guidance from a mentor or someone who inspires you or a positive person in your life. And be committed. Those things right there can save you tons of time and stress and worry. Now, if we look at different words when it comes to overthinking, let's think about over scrutinizing, dissecting, probing, over analyzing, or beating a dead horse. Those are different terms that we can use when we think about overthinking. So if you ever heard someone tell you, "Stop beating a dead horse, stop overanalyzing," you're overthinking. Maybe that's the word that comes to mind in the situation, but that's what it is. And I'm going to throw some quotes at you, right? Again, this is going to be a really short episode. A couple of different quotes, a couple of things to help you maybe create your own mantra. If you know what a mantra is, you know. If you're into music, a mantra will be the hook on a song, the part that repeats. So if you feel yourself overthinking, here's some quick little one-liners that could help you get through the moment. Give yourself a break. Just live. Ponder no more. Just do something. No more overthinking. Give your brain a break. Overthinking is illogical. Extinguish overthinking. Just say no to overthinking. Don't overthink. Feel instead. Give yourself a break. Give your brain a break. Life is meant to be lived, not overthought. The more you brood, the less you do. Overanalysis leads to action paralysis. There's a popular phrase that's called analysis or paralysis from analysis, where you think so much that you actually do nothing. No good comes from overthinking. The more you overthink, the less you do. Get out of your head and explore the world. And we can rephrase that and say, get out of your head and into the world. It's not possible to control every variable for my mathematicians out there. It's not viable to plan for every potential outcome. And if you're always planning, you'll never start anything. Get out of your brain. Break free from overthinking. Hey, you, get out of your head. Stop overthinking and live your life. Break free from the clutch of thinking too much. Say it with me. I will not overthink. I will not overthink. Thinking too much is just as bad as not thinking enough. And stop pondering what might happen and just live in the moment, baby. Now, let's think about different cognitive restructuring techniques. It's something called Socratic questioning. And what Socratic questioning is it's a very effective cognitive restructuring technique that can help you challenge your irrational, illogical, or harmful thinking errors. Now, this is a basic outline of questions to ask yourself when you're in the moment, when you're in that feedback loop that we talked about. Is this thought or are these thoughts realistic? Am I basing my thoughts on facts or feelings? What is the evidence for this thought? And could I be misinterpreting the evidence? Am I making mountains out of molehills? Am I viewing this in an askew manner? Am I viewing the situation as black and white when it's really more complicated? Is it in technicolor? Am I having this thought out of habit or do facts support it? And sometimes we have habits of overthinking. So it's key to ask yourself, am I thinking this because this is really what it is, or because I'm spiraling into a thought tornado? It's best to catch it before it gets bad. And then you can use guided imagery too. You can use life event visualizations. You can think about creating a intentionalized daydream where you put yourself in a separate moment, an alternate reality, where the outcome is ideal for you. You could also use this technology. You could get all of the happy pictures that you've taken in the last year, be it work accomplishments, family, the new home you purchased, the new car you purchased, your new cat or dog, your goldfish, those shoes that you wanted, that you saved for and you bought, whatever. But create a slideshow. And pretty much everybody has iPhones, but you can do it on Androids too. Create a slideshow and then put music behind it. And put your earbuds in. Go somewhere quiet, preferably a dark room if you can. If you're afforded the benefit or the luxury of being able to separate yourself in that moment where you're in this feedback loop, to go into a dark room and watch your movie, your restructuring movie. And watch as many times as you need to. And while you do it, breathe. Take slow, deep breaths. And another thing you can do, they have vision boards, right? You can create a vision board, but one that's static, right? Not just I would say do a screensaver. That's something that I've done in the past. I got a new phone, so I may do it again. But just like this movie that I'm talking about that you can create on your phone, the short video, you can also create one of things that you want, things that you're trying to, I hate using the word manifest, but things that you're trying to actualize in your life, things that you're actually trying to realize in real time. A new home, a new job, a new partner, abundance. You can get clips of these things from the internet. Just do a Google image search or Bing or whatever you use. Do an image search. A large house with a pool, large walk-in closet, whatever the things that would be ideal in your life. If you're someone who's trying to have a baby, newborn babies, family with children, whatever it is, all the things that will go on a vision board, you create a static vision board. Again, with music, ideal music, nothing crazy, nothing maybe upbeat if you're someone that's feeling down a lot, if you have depression. But I would say classical. It's easy to find, it's royalty free, it'll be easier to download. And classical music is composed with mathematic measures that actually help syncopate both sides of your brain, slow down your breathing and your heart rate. So it creates something called homeostasis, which is the ideal state of existence for a human being. Look up the word homeostasis. Homeostasis. Throw some classical music behind it and watch that. Then you have your static vision board and you have your, let's call it a life movie. But these are things that can help you. Now, we also have, now the cognitive therapists, they have different words for this, but directed dialogue, prompted dialogue. Let's say this. You take your voice recorder and you record some of those different prompts that I just gave you. Stop overthinking, get out of your brain. I will not overthink. I will not overthink. Create a audio soundtrack for that. And you can use that to help you in the moment, because we respond to our own voice. You don't think I don't go back and listen to my shows and think how I could improve it or how I could make the next one better? I absolutely do. I let my kids listen to some of them too. Sometimes they want to listen to me talk instead of the music when we're taking car rides. But the funny part is they don't want to listen to me talk when we're at home and I'm telling them what to do. Never understand these guys. But these are some of the things that you can do. Now, I'm going to leave it there because we're at like the 25-minute mark. And I want to keep it short. But this is just a little nugget for you to pull on, for you to let settle in your spirit. I'm dropping some jewels. Just walk with me, pick them up, put them in your pocket, carry them with you. Hopefully this helps. Once again, this is the Nuclear Dad signing off. Remember your mission. Remember why you do it. Remember to stay focused. Remember to stay diligent. Remember to stay vigilant. And most importantly, remember to stay cool.